Okay. Okay. Hello, everybody. Joining us virtually because there isn't anybody here in person, not yet anyway. Welcome to the March 4th, 2025 Landmark Preservation Commission meeting. I'm calling the meeting officially to order at 1 p.m. So the first thing that we normally do when we get going on at these meetings is introduce ourselves. My name is Julie Johnson. I am an Historic Preservation Project Manager, and I was nominated by the community at large. Larry, can you start?
Yeah, I'm Larry Sykes. I'm an architect, and I was nominated by History Colorado.
Hello, I'm George Dennis. I'm a retired cop, and I was nominated by History Colorado.
Hi, I'm Nick Fusianis. I'm an architect and a developer, and I was nominated by the American Institute of Architects.
I'm Erica Matsal. I'm an architectural historian and preservation consultant nominated by the community at large.
And I'm Rusty Brown, architect, and nominated by AIA.
Hey, Chris.
And I'm Chris McGinnis. I'm a forensic architect, and I was nominated by the mayor's office.
And I'm Brittany Bryant. I'm Denver Landmark Preservation staff.
Great. All right. For those of you joining us virtually, let's go over a few audio tips. For better sound quality, we strongly encourage you to download Zoom on your desktop, laptop, tablet, or mobile device. You can click audio settings to bring up an additional menu. You can add a background noise suppression. Test your speaker and microphone, adjust their maximum outputs. For presenters or public commenters, when it is your turn to speak, to mute or unmute, you can click on the microphone icon at the bottom of the screen. Expanding the menu next to the microphone will reveal additional options. Select your speaker and microphone devices. You can test your microphone and speakers, adjust the maximum output volumes. And if you still have audio challenges, you can switch to phone for audio. All right. The first matter of business is the approval of meeting records. Commissioners, we have meeting records for January 21, February 4, and February 18. Does anybody have any additions or corrections to any of these? All right, then do I hear a nomination, or I'm sorry, a motion from the floor, please?
Madam Chair, I'll move to approve the meeting records as presented.
Erica, thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
George has seconded. I'm all in favor of approving the minutes as presented.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, nay? All right, great. The minutes are approved as presented. Thank you very much, staff. All right, then we come to the public comment portion of our meeting. And for those of you joining us virtually, please listen to this because it is a little bit different than it has been in the past. Members of the public have up to 2 minutes each for comments about historic preservation in general and items on the design review agenda, business items and discussion items. Further comments on these topics will not be taken later in the meeting unless allowed by the chair. Members of the public will have up to 3 minutes each for comments on public hearing items following the staff and applicant presentation. We do not have any public hearing items today. So just remember that for the future. So to speak, click the hand raise button in Zoom, dial *9 on your keypad to raise your hand if you're joining by phone, or you can email landmark@denver.gov with your name and phone number if you are having difficulty with either hand raise option. All right, out there in virtual land, does anyone have a public comment for us? Public comment on historic preservation in general or on any of the actual design review projects? Doesn't look like it. Okay. Oh, we did see him. Okay, great.
You as an applicant, you will get a chance to present for 10 minutes if this is about your application specifically. But otherwise, we can unmute you and move you over if it's general public comment.
Lee, are you wanting to make a general public comment or So. Are you there? Can you hear us?
Okay, finally I can, I'm sorry, I just did not have a microphone for the longest time. I could not. It's here now. I suppose people can hear me now.
Yes, we can hear you. So.
Okay, that was everything. I was trying to figure out how to even have a microphone. It wasn't showing. Thank you. That's it.
Pretty cool. Well, then we'll talk to you again when your project comes up then in just a moment.
Thank you.
Excellent. Okay. All right. So indeed, we had no public comments. So let us move on to the consent agenda, please. These are routine design review items recommended for the commission approval without discussion. Applicants with items passed on the consent agenda should coordinate separately with the landmark preservation staff to receive a certificate of appropriateness. There is no public comment for consent agenda items. Here's the process. The chair will announce the consent agenda by address. The chair asks if commissioners desire to remove any items from the consent agenda. Removed items will then be shifted to the design review agenda. Commission members will announce any ex parte contacts and conflicts of interest on any of the items. And the commission will make a motion and vote. And if your project is approved on consent agenda, you could leave the meeting. Of course, you're welcome to hang out with us for the rest of the meeting, but you do not need to. All right, so we have two items on the consent agenda today. The first is 2024-TAXC-021 at 2557 Stout Street in Curtis Park D. The second is 2024-COA-467 at 2820 Champa Street in Curtis Park F. All right, commissioners, does anybody want to take anything off the consent agenda? You okay with it? All right, great. Any ex parte, any conflicts of interest at the table? Okay, excellent. All right. Then do I hear a motion?
Madam Chair, I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Nick, thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Rusty has seconded it. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Hearing no nays, the motion passes and the consent agenda has been approved. If that's one of your projects, then you'll just need to get in touch with your landmark preservation staff person and get your certificate. All right, let us move on now to the design review. And here is the process. The chair will announce design review items on the agenda in order by address. The commission members announce ex parte contacts and conflicts of interest. Staff will introduce the application and make a recommendation. This will be limited to 10 minutes. Commissioners can question that. The applicant presentation comes next, and that is limited to 10 minutes. Commissioners may question the applicant. Staff can clarify then if necessary. Commission will deliberate, and then the commission will make a motion to vote. All righty, our first design review project is 2022-COA-324 at 331 University Boulevard in the Country Club District. And Crystal is our staff person.
Julie. So this is for 331 University Boulevard, new infill structure in the Country Club Historic District. It was built recently after review and approval by the commission, which happened for phase 2 on August 2nd, 2022. The property is currently in violation for the windows at the stucco and shiplap portions of the structure and the garage. They do not currently meet the required 2-inch inset that was shown in the plans. Last June, the application came forward to the commission with a proposal to correct this window violation by adding trim around the windows, which was denied at that time. Next slide. So the original approved plans did have that 2-inch window inset in the plans, and the application did have 2 minor revisions since that original approval, and those window details never changed. However, as you can see from the photos from a site visit, those windows never did get inset. So the applicant has now decided to comply with design guideline 4.8F, which states to inset a window into the wall plane at least 2 inches from the wall plane. And for a double or single hung window, the inset may be measured from lower sash. So the applicant is proposing to meet this design guideline at the east elevation or the front facade only, which you can see here outlined in orange. Since this is the most visible facade for the new infill structure as it fronts on University Boulevard, and this is an interior lot. Next slide. So staff is supportive of this solution to meet the violation, as this is the most visible facade. And at this facade, it will meet that minimum 2-inch inset requirement. Though the design guidelines should apply to all elevations and the garage, staff believes that since this is a new infill structure, which is not contributing to the district and has already been built, the change to do all the windows would be costly and time consuming at all elevations. Additionally, windows at all the other elevations will not be highly visible from public vantage points, and for them to remain as is will not greatly impact the character of the district. Next slide. Therefore, staff is recommending approval of this proposal, so we can close out this existing violation.
Great, Crystal, thank you. Commissioners, do you have questions for Crystal? No, Chris, okay, great. All right, then is our applicant with us today? Yeah, there you go. All right, can you hear us? Hello?
There we go.
Hello, can you hear us?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay,
Okay,
all
great.
right.
If you,
Yep,
if you would give us your name and then you'll have 10 minutes to tell us about your project.
sure. Fred McNabb, Vertical Management Group, we're with the contractor. And yes, our proposal is to inset to the 2 inches, the windows there on the east side and the south facing side to come into compliance. And we're ready to get that work done as soon as we get approval from the staff.
Okay. That's the extent of your presentation then?
I mean, there's not a lot to add to it. I think it was represented pretty well there in the slides.
Excellent. Okay, great. Commissioners, do you have questions for the applicant? All right, no questions for you applicants. Thank you very much. Crystal, did you have anything else to add? Okay, commissioners, let's go into deliberation. What are your thoughts on this?
I was willing to live with the initial application last time.
Mhm.
So I'm happy if staff's happy with this.
Okay, great.
I can support staff.
Chris, what are you thinking there in virtual land?
I don't really have any further comments. I think it's pretty straightforward.
Okay.
Same.
All right, do I hear a motion from the floor?
Madam Chair, I'll
Erica.
make the motion.
Thank you.
I move to approve application number 2022 COA 324 for the windows at the shiplap portion of the east elevation only to be inset a minimum of 2 inches at 331 University Boulevard as per design guidelines F3 and 4.8. Character defining features for the Country Club Historic District, presented testimony, submitted documentation, and information provided in the staff report.
Erica, thank you. Do I hear a second? Emily has seconded it. All right, commissioners. Oh,
Quick comment.
all right.
The applicant mentioned that they'd also be correcting it at the south elevation. I don't know if you want further clarification from the applicant, but they, I believe that means just the shiplap south elevation for that front portion that was shown in the presentation materials. If you're comfortable with the motion as is.
I did wonder that as well, if they already have it in the plans.
I don't think it was, but maybe they were saying just that front.
I don't know if you want additional clarification from the applicant.
Yes, please.
Could we move those back over, Julie? Thank you.
Oh, sorry, applicant.
Sorry about that. Can you hear
No,
us?
that's entirely okay. We can't hear yet. Yeah, I apologize.
Okay.
My apologies to you. So the question was, Brittany?
So you mentioned in your presentation that you were gonna correct it on the south corner as well. The motion the commission made states only for the east elevation. Just want to be really clear as we want to close this project out, what the intent
Sure.
is here.
The intent is the east. I misspoke regarding the south. Apologies.
Thank you so much.
So it's just these. Okay, great. So the motion stands, motions. All right. So can we vote now?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, commissioners, all in favor of the motion as presented?
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? All right, it has been approved. Thank you very much. And we will move on to our second design review project, which is 2025-COA-113 at 295 Bannock Street in the Baker neighborhood. And again, Crystal is our staff person. Take it away, Crystal. Thanks.
Hopefully from my video. There we go. So this is 295 North Bannock Street, which is located in the Baker Neighborhood Historic District on a corner lot at the intersection of West Third Avenue and North Bannock Street. The primary structure was built in 1924 that you can see here on the left and is contributing to the district. Next slide. On the left here are photos of the existing structure and site, as well as the existing garage that will be demolished to make way for this new ADU. And on the right is the proposed site plan showing the new ADU at the rear of the lot along the alley with an ADU porch fronting onto West Third Avenue. So at the top of the screen is a streetscape drawing of the proposal showing how the ADU will fit into the surrounding historic context. Small front porch facing onto West Third, like other houses on the right side of this block. Below that are some floor plans for this new ADU garage. On the left is the first floor showing that 3-car garage, as well as the main entry from the porch. And on the right is the second floor ADU living area. Next slide. So here are the front and rear elevations of the new proposed ADU. Will be a 2-story front gabled ADU with that front porch facing the side street with the garage access from the alley like other garages in the district. The ADU utilizes simple detailing and a small front porch to fit the surrounding context. Landmark staff was mixed on the proportions of the new ADU porch, mainly on the columns proportion to the half wall below, as well as the size of the porch and the very small window adjacent to the main door, which staff felt should be slightly larger. However, due to the first floor being largely a garage and because of access concerns, staff felt the smaller window may be fine in this instance. Here at the top right are just some other examples of porches in the district with round columns, some with that half wall, some with not. And these examples also are typically from primary structures in the district, which is why staff was somewhat split on how this porch fit with this secondary structure. Additionally, this front elevation you can see here features a large bay window at the second floor. And though the design of the bay window is somewhat atypical in the district, bay windows in general are common in the district, though not typically on secondary structures. Some of the bay window examples included by the applicant can be seen here at the bottom left of the screen. Additionally, some of staff felt that the new bay window size and design did not necessarily fit the ADU and pulled from primary structures in the district rather than secondary ones. However, others on staff felt this was a modern interpretation of a bay window, and being added to the ADU would be good to add more articulation to this simple street-facing facade and would allow more light into the ADU overall. Next slide. So here's the side elevation facing towards the rear of the primary structure on the lot. The applicants are also requesting an administrative adjustment from the commission for the bulk plane encroachment for the ADU roof, which you can see encroaches here at the left side of the screen. The Denver zoning code states that the commission must find that development conforming to the requirements of the code would have an adverse impact on the historic character of the district or historic structure. Staff supports the requested administrative adjustment to the bulk plane as the design of the roof is simple and better matches the character of the district and other secondary structures in the district that face the side street for a corner lot location. The ADU roof design to meet the Denver zoning code would alter it in a way that does not match typical secondary structures that are found in the district. So meeting the requirements of the code would have an adverse impact on the historic district. Next slide. And then here's that other side elevation facing towards the alley for that garage access. All new windows will be simple fiberglass double hung casement or awning windows. There will also be new skylights at the roof, and the window proportions will match other windows found in the district. The doors will also be a Therma-Tru fiberglass as well. Next slide. Here are just some of the window details showing that all windows will be inset a minimum of 2 inches. Next slide. And then here are all the proposed materials. The new ADU is proposed to be clad in a smooth stucco, as well as a standard size brick with a grain texture that'll match the existing primary structure. The color wasn't included on the brick as they have mentioned that they will be painting it to match the primary structure. So this does meet design guideline 4.20. Next slide. And then finally, here's some isometrics showing different views of the ADU. The overall height is less than 23 feet and is shorter than the primary structure on the lot. The mass and form fits the surrounding context and is subordinate to the primary structure and compatible with the site and surrounding context. Next slide. Therefore, staff is recommending approval of the ADU as well as the administrative adjustment for the ADU roof encroaching into the bulk plane.
All right, thank you. Commissioners, any questions for Crystal?
I have a question, I guess, for Crystal or for any staff. When there's brick that's planning to be painted, are we concerned at all that the owners might see the brick unpainted and go, oh, actually, we kind of like this, and decide to leave it unpainted, and then there's a scenario where there's something that hasn't been approved?
That's a good question. I don't think that's happened as far as I've ever dealt with.
I mean, I guess in theory that could happen at any time. That would be a change to our COA. It's probably something we would review and approve administratively. There's a lot of variety in brick color in the Baker Historic District. In Crystal's first image, you could see a new, not that one, a new infill project proposal, which is kind of a brown brick. You can see an apartment from like the 1950s that's like a beige brick. So there is a wide variety of brick colors in the Baker neighborhood.
I would say though, if you think it's important that they have a color, like they forgot to put that in and kind of added, even putting that brick line about it the last minute. And mentioned it was gonna be painted, so they mentioned the grain texture. But we do typically ask for the integral color. I did ask for it, it wasn't included, so you may wanna add a condition that they provide that. But it's up to you.
Okay, thanks, Crystal. Anything else?
Crystal, is it looks to me like the main house had an expansion. Did that go through the process?
I think that was a really old addition, and then the house went through a whole overhaul being redone a few years ago. But that expansion was originally there probably way before that overhaul. It's not something we would add today or allow most likely, but it was already there.
The only thing that's really new is the garage,
Yeah,
which is proposed for
honestly.
demolition.
Yeah.
And they did paint the primary structure recently
It was red, a red brick.
Thank you.
and some window modifications. Yeah. No footprint.
Anything else? Okay, great, thank you. Do we have the applicant with us?
Yeah, hi there. Am I audible?
Ozzy, yes, we can hear you and we can see you. Give us your name, please, and then you'll have 10 minutes to tell us about this project.
Great, yes, I'm Ozzy Friedrich, 528 West First Avenue in Denver. And my firm is Radix Design. I know the owners, Nicolette and Eric, were planning to join from South Africa on their honeymoon. I'm not sure if they've been able to make it or not. But that is an inspector who needs to go to the back for the heat pump. So yeah, in terms of this design, so the site has a really neat and unusual context beyond being a corner lot, and I think a corner lot provides some unique concerns and conditions for ADUs that aren't necessarily reflected in the zoning code or in the current design guidelines. This area of Baker has a number of ADUs at corner lots, which have a shared characteristic of facing the street and addressing the street. And as you go around the neighborhood, you have a lot of interesting and varied conditions where like sometimes you'll have a secondary structure behind the main house that you can't necessarily tell whether it was a carriage house or an ADU or an independent house that was just built at a later date. So the neighborhood has this kind of zone of where, the structures don't necessarily come with an ADU label or a tandem house label. Historically, they tended to intermix. Our particular site has possibly the largest carriage house in the neighborhood directly across the street. And that's shown in the design package. It's, a triple car garage with a large loft over it and sadly deteriorated condition right now. And then we have a fairly unusual front house. I know one of the commissioners had a question about the kind of secondary entry off the front porch. Our understanding is that that's a fairly original part of the house. It was owned by a doctor historically, and there was a basement office that the doctor used. So that's part of the unique form that it has. And along with the hipped roof with a funny little dormer on it that I haven't seen anywhere else in the neighborhood. And then that combination of the stucco in the gable end of the front porch and then the rough textured brick, which was stained rather than painted back when this was renovated a few years ago. I should address some of the questions about the brick first. We're very happy that the owner wanted to build this ADU with brick, and we feel like that does a great deal for its compatibility with the original structure and the surroundings. And knowing that their primary house had been stained, that enables us to use a stain grade brick, which means that, it's not a uniform color when it comes to the site. It is really intended to be painted or stained on the site, and then it will have a uniform color. So it's, you can't really get a color sample for it. It's really, you just need to match the texture appropriately. So there are three particular things we should talk about in the presentation. One is the administrative adjustment request, and I think Crystal presented the basic reasoning for that very well. I would just note that an important aspect of the site design of the ADU is the alignment of the front facade with the side of the primary house. It was a strong goal that this not be forward of that original site of the primary house. And so that pushes it all the way south to that 3-foot side setback in the south property line. And that is part of what makes the administrative adjustment necessary. Then talking about the porch proportions, the porch was and I believe we submitted a memo with some supplemental information about the porch. Being a ADU with the opportunity to face the street, the porch is an important aspect of that in terms of neighborhood rhythm and context, but then also in terms of safety, since it's a north-facing entry, and unsheltered entry is something that we wouldn't feel comfortable with. The proportions are consistent with the sizes of porches you see on the smaller structures in this area, especially the examples from Cherokee and Delaware that are included at the upper right of this slide. And so we really took the design cues from that, as well as shaping the hitch roof so that it fits in under the primary horizontal that's created by the soldier course and the brick in the bottom of the bay window. And if the commission has feelings about, the size of the window, the proportions of the window, that's certainly something we can look at. Design-wise, as Crystal kind of indicated, we're trying to bring some light into the entry and some windows facing the street, but we are not wanting to put windows into the garage just because in our neighborhood we have terrible issues with people's garages being broken into, and wouldn't want to put a window there and end up with it covered by bars in a few years or something like that. Then finally, there's the bay window, and this is possibly the most key element that we feel as designers is very important to the success of the design. This being an ADU, we don't want to over articulate it, but we, with this facade facing the street, it feels very important for it to have one key design move to it, and that is the bay window. And that's based on partially on looking around the neighborhood and seeing how the bay windows in the neighborhood are kind of the focus of creativity on a lot of the existing houses. They are the place where something really unique happens, and then the rest of the structure is more familiar. This one uses a triangular geometry to kind of signal its modern character and to kind of simplify the overall form. We did look at this with more square geometries and more octagonal geometries, and those were all, they all honestly just felt excessively imitative. So the detailing of the bay window was revised a few times as we're working through it, but the overall form has remained that triangular form. An important piece of input we got from the Neighborhood Landmarks Committee was to create more division between the windows so that they read as independent verticals rather than as a ribbon window. And that felt to us like the last key step to making it really fit in. So yeah, those are, I think, the key points to the design. Be very interested for any questions that you happen to have. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Ozzy. Anybody have questions for our applicant?
Got
Larry?
one question. Is there a reason that there's no theme above the porch columns?
That is not a design topic that we've discussed. I think the reason there is that it is fairly low because the overall proportions of the ADU are somewhat compressed. However, I do think a pronounced beam, we do have several inches where something like that could be done.
Any other questions for Ozzy? All right, thank you very much, sir. Let's move on and let's see. Staff, do you have any other? No? Great. Okay, then commissioners, let us move into deliberation. What are your thoughts?
I guess I'll jump in since I
Sure.
asked the question about the beam, but yeah, I mean, I have no problem with the porch as presented, other than it does look a little bit awkward to me to not have any kind of beam or like an architrave in a traditional porch, and it feels like it's with the hip roof trying to be kind of a more traditionally styled porch. So that's my only real comment. Otherwise,
You're okay with
support
it,
the
though?
project. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Rusty, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I concur.
Okay. Emily's nodding.
I just say I appreciated the applicant's memo that I think very concisely kind of went through their design decision-making process and why they were trying to go for certain things and their solution that they arrived at for those different problems. So I just wanted to say I appreciated that, but I think, yeah, it meets all the guidelines and I think is a unique read of clearly an ADU that's subordinate, but I think that's good. So
Did you have any?
Nothing further to add.
Okay, George?
No.
Chris?
Good.
Yeah, my only comment would be that that small punched opening next to the entry door underneath the porch. That is north facing, and you do have the porch overhang, and it is a small window, so I don't really know how much it's really contributing to adding light to that small entryway, and it does look a little odd in my opinion, because you kind of have the door and then a little light, and then kind of like this expanse of wall space. So I don't know if there's, maybe it's just a general comment about, I don't know that it really takes away from not approving it or not supporting the project. I just think it looks a little bit odd, and I don't know how much it's really contributing, but overall, I think it's a good project, and I do support it.
All right, Chris, thank you very much. All right, it sounds like we are all in agreement. Do I hear a motion from the floor? Everybody speak at the same time.
Okay,
Okay, George.
Madam Chair, I move to approve application
I'm just,
2025.
sorry, George, I just wanted to be clear, did we want to have a condition about a beam at the porch?
Oh, yeah,
Or
good
I just
question.
didn't wanna have to revisit that question. If
I do think that it would contribute.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, that's the question, is do you think that it meets the guidelines without it or
Yeah.
not? I would say
Yeah, that's,
that's the.
Otherwise,
I think
we're,
it does.
otherwise we're
It's
we're
more-
restricted.
But ultimately, he's gonna find out structurally.
That's the.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
that's-
it's gonna happen either way, so,
So when and then, once it's added, it's gonna only improve it.
yeah,
So-
so I guess.
As long as it meets the guidelines.
It does end up coming back to you with that. Yeah.
Okay, all right, then I think that we're
So-
good to go with the.
Sorry for the
Okay.
interruption.
No, that's fine.
Oh,
Let's go with the motion as
Move
presented.
to approve application 2025 COA 113 for the new ADU garage at 295 North Banner Street as per design guideline 418-4.20, character defining features for Baker Neighborhood Historic District, presented testimony, submitted documentation, and information provided in the staff report. I also move that Landmark Preservation Commission find that conforming with the zoning standard for encroachment into the bulk lane at the rear 35% of the zone lot would have an adverse effect on the historic character of the Baker Neighborhood Historic District for the proposed garage ADU roof design for section 12.4.5.2B of the Denver zoning code for application 2025 COA 113 at 295 North Bannock Street.
George, thank you. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Nick has seconded it. All right. Commissioners, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Chris? All right, any nay? All right, then, the motion, is approved, as is the administrative adjustment. Ozzy, congratulations, good luck and have fun. All right, let us go on to our next project. It is 2025-COA-061 at 233 West Second Avenue in the Baker neighborhood again. And this time it's Brittany, the staff person.
So our next application is for retroactive approval of a porch violation in the Baker neighborhood. This property is set pretty far back from the primary street, as you can see in the kind of large front lawn and its relationship to the adjacent property, which is much forward of that. But it is a contributing structure to the Baker neighborhood, which has a period of significance of 1873 to 1937. So previously, this structure did have a gable roof porch with a concrete foundation. It is difficult to see in this photograph, but those Tuscan style columns are also on a concrete plinth. Staff do believe that this porch is likely from the period of significance, but however, doing research into the Sanborn maps, originally this home did not have a front porch. So the property in question is this one that is set back pretty far in the Sanborn images, and you can see the 1904 corrected to 1925 Sanborn map does not show a front porch on this home. However, by 1929, corrected to 1937, which is within the period of significance for the district, there was a partial width one-story porch on this home that appears to roughly match the existent or the footprint of the gabled roof porch that you can see in this image here. So the applicant was not aware that this project scope would require landmark review and approval and did replace the front porch. The front porch was replaced with a semi-barrel vaulted porch form with square columns. You can see that concrete plinth that those columns sit on much more clearly in this photograph. Again, that was a prior condition, so we're only looking at the porch roof form and columns in terms of this replacement application. This porch is about 10 feet in height and has a footprint of 5 feet 8 inches by 7 feet, which is roughly the footprint of the prior porch. However, staff are very concerned about the form of the replacement porch. Staff do feel that the prior porch was within the period of significance and was a contributing element to this home. Additionally, we feel that the gabled roof porch is much more contextual to the surrounding historic context in terms of the porch roof, the entablature, and column designs. The applicant did provide some evidence of adjacent porch properties. Generally speaking, within the Baker neighborhood, you do see gable roofs, hipped roofs, shed roofs, etc. There is one structure, which is the one on the left side of your screen, that does have these kind of arched awning shapes to them. However, we feel that the barrel roof replacement that was used on this porch is not compatible with the surrounding historic context, and thus we are recommending denial of this application, as we do not feel it complies with our guidelines regarding porch replacements being based on historic evidence or being informed by the surrounding historic context if they are not original to the home. So we are recommending denial at this time.
Great, thank you. Any questions for staff?
Brittany, is that that little awning over the window? I guess that has nothing to do with this. I guess it came off or was taken off.
Yeah, they did remove that. That's not something we would have concerns over and would definitely encourage removal of a bubble awning. Also the one, I'm not really sure if we'd call that an awning, but whatever that is above the egress too, but we don't require changes unless they're actively doing work on a specific element.
Okay. Other questions for Brittany? Okay, great. All right, is our applicant with us?
Hi, can you hear me now?
We can hear you. Yes, thank you. If you would start with your name and then we'll give you 10 minutes to tell us about this project.
Sure. My name is Lee Howard. I am the owner of the house at 233 West 2nd Avenue. I've owned it since 1996, 95 when we first moved in there. I'm not a designer. I'm nothing like that. I'm just a homeowner and a landlord, I guess you would say. And this whole, oh, I'm sorry. Did I just need to say my name and everything, or do you want me to keep going?
Just did? No, you've got 10 minutes to
Okay.
tell us.
All right. So a lot of I've owned a home, like I said, since 1996. And by the way, that little dome thing was there when we bought it, but it was a different color, the little, whatever you want to call it, cooler dome, but that's not what we're here for. So nevertheless, a lot of water damage had occurred to the house over the years, especially over the past, I'd say 10 years. Especially to the rear, we had lots of brick that were actually starting to fall out. So back in basically a couple years ago, we started doing some of the renovation work and started to get that repaired. The original, I guess, whatever you want to call it, the gabled roof also had some water damage behind it. if you were to look online and look at pictures of the front, you can actually see the porch was starting, or the awning was starting to lean a little bit to the right of your, to the east. Well, over those years, it got worse. My stepson went up onto the roof to try to do some repairs, and it actually started to fall away and come away almost immediately. At this point, it becomes a danger to my tenants and other things. And I was away at work. I travel constantly for work. And they asked me, he said, we can't leave it here. And doing what I do, I deal a lot with safety. I knew, my opinion was it needed to be taken down immediately. So that's what I had them do. I went online to check to see if we were a historic house online. And I don't know how to share my screen, but online on one of the Denver websites, it says that the house is not historic. It designates it as says no. So at that point in time, I figured, okay, we're not doing any damage or anything. And my wife had said, hey, this doesn't seem to fit with the neighborhood. This is what we were thinking. And wouldn't it be better for it to take into account the accents over the bay window with that arch? And our neighbor's house also has arches over their windows and everything. So we walked around the neighborhood and we did not see any rhyme or reason why we couldn't. We weren't looking for gabled roof houses. We were looking for single story flat roof houses to see if there was any other rhyme or reason what we could or could not do. We eventually had to go back and take pictures of those houses, and all those pictures you've seen were from the neighborhood. So when we looked around there, we said, well, there doesn't seem to be any issue with the style or what it has to look like. And so that's what we ended up building. Now, mind you, I'm fully at fault for not having them get a permit and such things like that. I talked with the city and they were saying that I need to ask for a certificate of appropriateness. And this has been going on for months. We had tried to get a hold. I actually went down to the web building, sat there in one of the little glass rooms, I think on the second floor for a good hour before I realized everybody had gone home. Nevertheless, we didn't think we were in any type of violation. There was significant water damage. And this is one of the reasons why we don't believe that it's actually the original. There was construction adhesive behind the original, or let's say the gabled roof awning. So we didn't think that there was going to be any issue. And so we built what we did. And when later, as this became more of an issue, we started talking with the landmark group. We got some of the guidelines, and in chapter 2 of your guidelines on page 23, it shows a building where the roof line had been completely changed to even have kind of an arch, and it was basically saying that this is approved, and it was a modern contemporary let's say representation, completely changed from the original, which was 2 pictures to the left on the page. So it seems to be interpretation of the guideline is where I'm stuck, because my wife really loves this. I love this look. My neighbors like this look. And we don't think that the original was that one on the gable was actually original or from that date. The columns that were there, they were splitting. They weren't one solid, I guess you would call it, column. They were actually made of separate little pieces of wood that went around and made a column circle, and they were glued. The glue had come apart in them. They were splitting off. So like I said, we had to take it down. We don't have any historical data to rebuild the what do you call it, to rebuild the gable type. Don't have the professionalism really. We were able to do this, but this was fairly simple. And there was some comments saying that, hey, there's still paint, it's not done yet. The reason being is because we were told cease and desist, so that's when we stopped doing everything. So if you were to go back and look in my house, you would even see that the front half of this house, fully the front half, was not built when the back half of the house was built. I had some question on whether or not the house was originally a carriage house for the one next door. The door used to be along the right-hand side when you go down the little walkway. And I don't know when this front half was actually built, but you can see on the inside, right where you enter the kitchen, the wall where all the other interior walls are only 4 inches thick, the interior wall for the kitchen is 12 inches thick. And that tells me, I don't know, I guess that it was an exterior wall at one point in time. Nevertheless, I guess what I'm trying to say is we would like to keep this from the interpretation that I see, where I see a lot of things inside of the in the guidelines, that a contemporary modern design, simplified contemporary modern design can be acceptable. I went through the neighborhood. If you look at everything, all those pictures in the neighborhood for flat roofed houses, there's no gabled awning or porch cover that really you see. You see a lot of flat ones. I see a mix of them, and we don't see where we're necessarily in violation of anything. I would love for you guys to just to please approve this. I don't know what else to say. I'm not a designer. I don't know. I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed. As a matter of fact, we really found out about this on Saturday night, and this meeting. I know the email was sent out on Wednesday, but I work and I don't check my email personal accounts from hotels because they're not secure. Got in Saturday. Then there was the Windows. There was a failure of Microsoft 365. It even made it onto CNN, the news. And so Saturday was the first day we realized that this meeting was going to occur. Anyway, again, a little overwhelmed, and I bow to your, hopefully you guys will approve or change your mind and approve.
No, you're doing fine. Just relax. Hang on a second. Let's see if the commissioners have any questions for you. And Nick has one.
Yeah, you said that you stopped construction and it does look partially finished. If you were allowed to finish, what steps would you take? What materials would you use to round this out so that it represents what your vision is? Because the drawings don't call for anything further than what's there.
Well, okay, so really the exterior of this looks pretty much, I would say, is complete. Where we had to stop, there was some paint on the actual house that needs to be done. The ceiling of the awning is exposed right now, and it has not been painted or waterproofed or anything, because we were told to stop all work. So the only thing we have been using the same materials that were of the stuff that was taken down, is basically plywood, pine, some what do you call it? I'm trying to remember the type of wood that's better for the outdoors. But it's all the same materials, and so we just would like to finish it off. I just need to put in a ceiling in there, basically finish some painting. If there is something that you guys would say, hey, we don't like the front because of X or Y, we can see if we can incorporate that. We're not major builders or anything. The columns, or you want to call them the posts, everything in this should be the same exact size, because we put them on top of those plinths, where even the plinths were moving. We had to secure the plinths down to the ground or to the top of the concrete porch with epoxy.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for our applicant? No? Okay, great. Staff, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
I do have some recap. I just wanted to share page 23 of the design guidelines with the commission. So this is page 23. This page is in reference to reconstructing a missing cornice. All illustrations in the guidelines are for illustrative purposes, but the guidelines are the applicable text. I would not apply the recommendations for rebuilding a cornice for rebuilding the porch. A possible solution to this project would be just removing the porch, because historically, during much of the period of significance, this home did not actually have a front porch, so that is a possible solution for this project. However, as mentioned in the last application, porch coverings are usually desirable due to rain and snow and things of that nature. So if there was a desire for a porch covering, we would ask for something that complies better with design guidelines 2.38 and 2.39 per our staff report.
Oh, okay. Questions for staff?
This question I would have is, I mean, the way I kind of understand this is if you have the way I understand the guidelines is that if you have historic evidence, including in this case, the photograph of the porch as it existed before it was removed, that the requirement for reconstruction would be to rebuild it in the form that it previously had. Is that correct?
That is what the guidelines recommend, again, because historic evidence indicates that for much of its time during the period of significance for the Baker neighborhood, it didn't have a porch. We would also be okay with that as a possible solution.
Yeah, but like taking it down and putting up some sort of new interpretation, even if that were to be something that in another context would meet the guidelines in the case that you have the evidence of what it is, that's not what the guidelines would allow,
Correct.
right? Okay. Thank you.
And we also tend to err on fabric is original unless proven otherwise and encourage preservation or replication of that unless proven otherwise.
Yeah,
We don't have evidence to, again, this porch is gone now, so we can't really research it, but barring any other evidence, we do feel that this does match what is shown in the 1937 Sanborns and what would have been contextual for a porch constructed in the 1920s, 30s.
thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, great. All right, then, commissioners, then let's go ahead and go into deliberation. What are your thoughts here?
I support the staff's conclusions. It's too bad. It sounds like the porch that was there was having some issues, but what had been put in its place is just does not meet this historic building in form. And I've seen many buildings of this type with a gable roof porch, so that's not surprising at all to me to see that. And of course, the most applicable context is the building itself. So even though there are different types that you see around the neighborhood, and those can be helpful to look at, I think the most informative image is the image of the porch that was there originally. So I'm supportive of staff in denying this application.
Erica, thanks. Anybody else?
I can agree with Erica too, but
Seems like the guidelines are clear.
yeah.
Chris, did you have any thoughts?
No, I don't have any further comment.
Okay, all right. Then do I hear a motion from the floor?
Go ahead, Nick. Okay, all right.
It's on the,
Um,
it's just green if you wanna.
I move to deny application number 2025-COA-061 for the porch replacement at 233 West Second Avenue as per design guidelines 2.38 and 2.39. Character defining features for the Baker Neighborhood Historic District, presented testimony, submitted documentation, and information provided in the staff report.
All right, do I hear a second? Nick has seconded it. All right, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed, nay? All right, then the motion has passed and the project as presented has been, application has been denied. All right, moving on to discussion items. We don't have anything listed, anything business items?
So
We don't have anything. All right, it is 2:02 and I will adjourn the meeting.